Office Hours. Hey, my name is Payne. I'm your host today, and this is Indexer Office Hours number 148. Let's get into the opening remarks, where we have the episode 159 featuring 𝗨𝗂𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. He's the co-founder at 𝗨𝘀𝗶𝗀𝗀, a new crypto wallet, and the founder of DeFi Library. If you want to comment on it, Nick, feel free. Otherwise, we can jump into Repo Watch.
You pronounced it correctly, and it was just an episode to explore wallets and the future of wallets with a team that's trying to do something innovative. So thanks for the shout out.
Lovely. What happened with your voice, by the way? You
I
feeling
was
okay?
sick, dog.
Oh, man. Go get some meds, mate. I hate that it's the season, right? It's the season. Everyone is getting sick. Yeah. Get well soon, mate. All right. Juan, come on. I was trying to be helpful, and I probably didn't sound well. Okay, so ignoring the chat, we will move over to Repo Watch. Off to you, Anna.
Thank you, Payne. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. I'm just gonna quickly say, Nick, just do what I do. Just don't leave the house and you don't get sick. Just never leave. All right. So today in Repo Watch, starting straight with execution layer clients, we have had a new Aragon release. So this is 258.2. This mostly applies to Polygon mainnet users who need to upgrade to this release or later before the Napoli hard fork, which happens on March 20th, 2024. And we're running this release without any issues. Then we have new release on Heimdall. This is 104.104. Yes, that's correct. Which is a mandatory release for operators running Polygon mainnet. And upgrading Heimdall to this version has to happen before the Dencam hard fork, which happens tomorrow, so March 13, 2024. And this release updates the Bohr package version used as a dependency to Bohr 127, which contains all of the changes for parsing Ethereum blocks with blob transactions. Moving on to consensus layer client, we have new release for Prism, so 501. Minor patch release with some nice improvements over the recent 500 for Deneb. All operators must update their Prism software to 500 or later before the upgrade, before tomorrow's upgrade on Deneb. On Teku, we had new release, so 24.3.0, which fixes an issue where stale log files weren't able to be cleared up and would effectively park the service for beacon nodes or validator clients with no user errors or any indication that the service was in a bad state. So if you've seen that, if it applies to you, please do upgrade to this release. And finally, on Lighthouse, we have had two new releases. So this is release 510, which supports, just like with the previous release 500, the Deneb upgrade. And if you're already running the 500, you are not required to upgrade to 510 before Deneb, but it's recommended. And what you need to know here is that Lighthouse now caches 3 states by default rather than 4. And that value can be modified with the CLI flag state cache size. Here we had another release. This is 511, which is a hotfix release identical to 510, with the exception of some build system fixes for macOS. And if you have already updated to 510, you can ignore this release. we have applied these releases on our testnets, and they're both working without issues. And then this is all I have this week. It's quite light. Just quickly scanning. Vince is asking if anyone has upgraded Heimdall, and that there's some interesting changes there.
If you wait for another hour, I'll sacrifice for the greater good.
Thank you, Pain.
I just don't want to do it live during IOA show. I'm not that degenerate yet.
Yeah, we haven't tried it either, so can't comment there. But let us know if you tried it, and Pain, yeah, share what you see with it. All right, handing over to Juan.
Hey.
Juan!
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Anna. Oh, geez. It always scares me. Cool. So I'm going to be challenging Anna's, not a lot of content statement by doing a protocol watch with barely any content. So we have a few things to cover. First of all, from governance, we have a new GAP 65, Subgraph Availability Manager. This GAP basically aims to start the decentralization process on the SAOs. For those that are unaware of what the SAO is the Subgraph Availability Oracle, which is the oracle that takes charge of signaling to the on-chain which subgraphs are going to be denied rewards. And those subgraphs that are going to be denied rewards are those that are not, that either don't have their files available to index, to secure against some attack vectors, as well as those subgraphs that have some features that are not yet supported by the network. So the idea is to add the subgraph availability manager, which would enable us to start the decentralization process and allow more than one oracle to be running from multiple teams. I think the initial proposal was to have 5 core dev teams running an oracle each, but that might change depending on the circumstances. But that's apparently what the GAP introduces. For forum research, we don't have new updates since last IOH. For the contracts repository, we have a few PRs merged, mainly some audit reports, some linting stuff, and ignoring some paths in the config. But that's pretty much it for contracts. And for the network subgraphs, we don't have any new updates for any of them. So that's pretty much it for Protocol Watch. I'm gonna hand it over to Paka now.
So to keep with the theme of today, I have an even more optimized section of IOH. No Project Watch updates this week. I win. Mic drop.
That was amazing. Okay. Cool. So if no Project Watch, by the way, can you shout out the feedback survey on whatever? I have something here. We might want to talk about it. Feedback survey on Project Board and something.
Oh, I'm not actually sure what you're talking about, but yeah, visit the link that Payne is talking about, and please share feedback about Project Watch and the content you'd want.
This one.
Thanks, Payne.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that said, we will move into the open discussion section of today's IOH. Let's start with Petco from GraphOps. He will share some updates on Subgraph Radio. Petco, the mic is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear, mate.
Perfect. Okay, I was just about to challenge Juan and Anna, and I was gonna make this section really short, but I can't beat Paka, so yeah. Let's jump, Paka. You win this time. I'm gonna share my screen real quick.
You can just pretend your screen sharing doesn't work, and then we can cut it off.
No, it's already longer. All right, so we have released Subgraph Radio version 1.0.1, which has very important things. And the good news is that the changes didn't require the messages and the message traffic to be forked like what happened before version 1. So if you were running Subgraph Radio before version 1 and then you ran version 1, you basically you weren't able to receive messages from the people that were running versions before that. But this time that's not the case. So even if you're still on version 1.0 for whatever reason, your messages will still be received and handled by people running 101. Now, you should update to 101 because thanks to our good friend Payne, we discovered a memory leak, not in our code, because our code is written in Rust, but in one of our dependencies, which is written in Go. So that was unfortunate, but we worked with them and we managed to trace the issue and fix it. So version 101 does not have any memory leaks, I promise. And also, along with fixing the memory leak, we added some cool stuff to the Grafana dashboard, just to make things easier for people to kind of understand what's happening inside the radio. So, for instance, we added the average message frequency. So for each subgraph that you are receiving messages for, you can see kind of the times when you receive messages, basically. So, and the reason that for instance, here you get more messages and here you get less is because different users have configured different intervals at which they want to send messages for subgraphs, which is perfectly fine. You can configure basically everything from a second to a few days. I mean, I don't know why either of those would be useful, but yes, the freedom is yours. We also have average processing time, which is just interesting to monitor how long it takes your radio to process a incoming POI message. So yeah, I'm not sure why. Sometimes it takes a bit more, but you see that the difference is like, yeah, it's pretty minimal. I didn't do my homework, so I don't know if this is in seconds or minutes. It's probably seconds. So this one took 0.3, and then this top one here took 0.4. So yeah, pretty close. Another new thing is the max stake POI, which basically tracks how many how much stake is tied to the consensus POI for a given subgraph at a given point. And yeah, these ones are pretty straightforward, for instance, and the stake that backs this POI didn't change, but for instance here, for some reason we got a drop and then it got back on. But yeah, this is just interesting things that you can monitor, especially in a longer time frame. Currently, I've just set it to 3 hours because that's how long I've been running my radio. But yeah, especially with longer time, you can get a lot more insights. We also have latest message timestamp because sometimes for instance, here in this POI comparison results table, which is pretty useful, but it gives you the latest block at which, like the last block where you've compared your POI for a given subgraph with the POIs that you've received, which is great. But just in case you want to see if, for instance, you haven't received messages for a subgraph, meaning that you haven't compared your POIs, your POI to received POIs for some time, you can check this panel and basically see when is the last time you've received a message, you've received and handled a message for a given subgraph. And this is Unix timestamp, which is a bit yeah, I mean, yeah, you can track it by blocks and you can track it by timestamps, whatever you need. We've also added frequent senders. I guess this might be interesting. You can basically see the top other indexers that have sent you messages on for a given subgraph. For instance, this person here has sent 18 messages in the last 3 hours, which is great. I think that just about covers all of the new things. Yeah, this is pretty cool. We kind of fixed the logic behind the number of gossiping indexers per subgraph. Before, we just displayed gossiping peers, but it's not technically the same because a peer node is not necessarily a indexer, but what you care about is how many other indexers are sending messages on the radio. So yeah, the numbers are looking good. Looks like it's been 22 people sending, and no, I mean I have to clarify. This is the number of indexers that are sending messages with at least one subgraph that you care about, because there could be other indexers that are sending POIs for subgraphs that you don't care about, so you're not receiving those messages. So you don't care about them, but you do care about the indexers that you have matching subgraphs with, like subgraphs that you actually want to compare your POI to their POI. I think that's just about it. Let me see if there's anything in chat. Okay. And yeah, if anyone has questions, feedback, or anything subgraph radio related, yeah, just don't hesitate to shoot me a message or leave an issue on GitHub or anything. We are open for feedback all the time.
Okay, so I guess there is no other questions. Looking at the chat. I think Steak Machine has a question of how many nanoseconds in 1 second. Okay, ignoring that. I think we're good. We can move to the next part, which is the blobs and the EAP 4844 and the substream power subgraph that was deployed by Pinax. Matthew, will you be willing to talk about it?
I certainly can talk about it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear, mate.
All right. Thanks, Payne. So Nick has just informed me that the official blog post talking about what the graph is doing about blobs has now been published. So yay! So we do have all the details. So yeah, so great timing. If you've been on Indexer office hours or the core R&D chat over the last couple of weeks, you already know what's going on. So, but you can have a read through there. And yes, as Payne mentioned, the subgraph for the Ethereum mainnet blobs is synced. Of course, there's no blobs yet because the Duncan hard fork is not until, I don't know, we're 22 hours away from that or so. So there won't be any blobs till then. But the subgraph is published, so when the blobs appear, they will be in the subgraph. We're working on doing subgraphs for the other testnets, and so those will be coming soon, and they'll get published and up-synced as well. So, yes.
Given that its network name is Beacon, I guess that needs to go through the CIP process and the whole thing, right?
Well, yeah, so there's no indexing rewards or anything, right? Because, yeah, you have to go through the CIP process, but there is a name. So the name is a Beacon for the mainnet, and the other ones are name of chain - Beacon. So that will be the names. So like Sepolia - Beacon and what else? Polsky - Beacon. So so yeah, so the everything works. It's running. The gateway supports it. Yeah, there's no indexer rewards because it has to go through the chain integration process. It would be great to have at least one other indexer indexing the subgraph and not just Pinax. So if you feeling altruistic, that would be great. All the Firehose code is live, or you can use the existing Pinax Firehose. Anyway, everything is all there. So I will be happy to take questions if anybody wants to know about it.
Yana is dropping memes like crazy. I love it.
Yana is a meme factory.
Yep.
I'm a little bit late to the blob party, I guess. But is it a separate chain description because it's not going to be living in the chain itself? Or is there some other considerations?
The blobs live in the consensus layer chain,
Makes
not
sense.
the execution layer chain. So that's why we had to build a firehose instrumentation for the consensus layer chain, and that's why the chain name is different.
Awesome. Glad to hear someone worked on that.
Yeah, whole bunch of really interesting work. That's for sure. Yeah, so Vince is asking the $1 million question. Anyone planning to do anything interesting with blobs? Yeah, I want to know too. So so far we're saving the blobs. Now let's see what happens with if anybody wants to do anything interesting with them.
Yeah, I think storing them so that it's not lost when someone figures out what to do with the blobs is a nice first step, I guess.
Exactly. If we don't save them, then you can't do those second part. So let's just save them for now.
Is there a limit on how much these are going to bloat the storage?
I think Yarrow shared it was like I don't know, 3 terabytes a year or something.
Okay. So yeah, well, fine, I guess. That could
There's a
go into...
There's a maximum number of blobs per slot, and the blobs have a exact size. So
got
you
it.
can do the math to figure out how big it will actually be.
Yeah, got it. Cool.
If Jim wants to upload Linux ISOs, he's gonna have to chop it up because a Linux ISO will not fit in a single blob. So we need to get out UU encode and split it all up. Does everybody remember how that works? Back in the old days of uploading ISOs to Usenet. Matthew OG, yes. Yep. So anyway, blobs are live. Would love to more indexers to help index this. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Yeah, and with that said, I guess we are out of topics that we've planned for today. So if anyone has any interesting topics to bring out, feel free. Otherwise, we can chat about chains and things.
Actually, I have a dumb question. It's about the blobs on the nodes. Like, where are they going to be stored again? Because I couldn't figure out if it's going to be in the execution layer or the consensus layer client.
It's in the
consensus
layer client.
Yeah. So how much do we expect the consensus layer to, extra space for it to take? Because of the blobs.
Not too much, because by default it expires the blobs after 18 days.
Yeah. What's the max though? How can we make sure that we don't run out of storage momentarily?
Go to Best Buy, buy an SSD, stick it in the machine, and you're good to go.
I need a number.
Download more RAM. It's
Yeah, sure.
3 terabytes a year, so you should be fine.
Well, no, it's not a year, right? Because it's 18 days that it stores it. So
Oh, wait.
It's going to be 3 terabytes a year in the firehose.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. But there's going to be some gigabytes in the consensus layer, some extra gigabytes. Got to plan for it. Right.
Yeah. Yarrow, are you here? You can do the math.
Yeah, I figure it like a couple 100 gigabytes for 3 weeks. Should be, that's what it should take, I think. At most.
So kind of like roughly double double, triple the amount of storage for the consensus layer, basically, right?
Maybe I'm not aware what the requirements right now.
Yeah, it depends if you have your existing consensus layer expiring old,
Yeah.
Consensus layer stuff, or it's keeping a history of everything.
So I got Nimbus on prune mode, and it takes 100-ish or thereabout. So, yeah, very roughly, right?
But then again, it depends on like if people are gonna use them other than roll-up
Of course.
storage. Like,
Yeah.
So
Just to
if
be
there is,
ready.
yeah, I guess so.
I'm sure people are gonna do a remake of what's going on Bitcoin, right? It's gonna be like, oh, we're gonna store NFTs on blobs or whatever, temporary NFTs, right?
Inscriptions.
Inscriptions, yes, they're gonna do that. So don't worry, people are gonna use it.
Blobscription.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna have to plan our trip to Best Buy for sure.
There's gonna be a flight for you, Payne, I guess.
Yeah.
Finally, you'll come visit us in the US, right?
What's the European equivalent of Best Buy?
Amazon, I guess.
Oof.
Juan says IKEA. Yeah, let me assemble my RAM really quick.
Any more questions there, Alexi?
No, that's that.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
I have a question with the math that was, the estimate on how much more storage you need for the consensus layer. Does that assume, and again, this is probably a new question because I don't entirely know how blobs work, but does that assume that kind of like everything that happens in the chain is blob related, or does that assume certain average amount of blob related content? I would assume not all blocks need to store blobs.
Math was not including the regular chain content; it was just the blob content.
Yeah, but what I mean is, I don't know how blobs work. Like, when do you post blobs, or if all blocks need to have blobs associated to them, or sometimes
No.
they don't. What if, let's assume, a scenario where all of the blocks that happen in the chain need to, or are they not related at all? Like, you can post a block without a blob, and a blob anytime.
There can be a blob without a. There can be a block without a blob.
But blobs need to have blocks that are associated with them.
Yes.
So what if all blocks contain blobs? Would that skyrocket the consensus layer?
There's a maximum number of blobs per block. If you want more blobs per block, then the gas price will go up.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So
Yeah,
until
but
it gets too expensive that nobody wants to post a blob.
Yeah, this is a different gas price. So blobs have their own gas price, and yeah, it fluctuates depending on the number of blobs being proposed. So yeah, the more blobs getting proposed, the more the higher the price is for the blobs. And yeah, to do the math, it's simple. So one blob is 125 kilobyte of data, and there are up to 6 blobs per block, and every block every 12 seconds. So do some simple math, and you get like the how much space you need.
Yeah, makes sense. But is the 6 blobs per block kind of like a max?
This is like a
limit?
hard limit
Okay,
on top.
cool.
But the target is to have 3 blobs per block. So the price point gonna be trying to move the that number to 3 per block.
Makes sense. Thanks.
So, question from Derek: should indexers be thinking of shopping for GPUs? Oh no.
Maybe I can respond that directly. I mean, I already responded, but we're still working on SQL. That's the priority. We are, of course, thinking about the quote-unquote AI service. I don't like that term AI, by the way. Machine learning inference service would be accurate. Um, but yeah, no need for now to plan. I think let's see how it shapes. But because we're really planning for inference, it's some models may run really well on CPUs, and so that may be a thing, right? I don't know if you guys have played with llama.cpp. If you haven't, please do. It's pretty fun, and you'll be surprised what you can do. You can do some stuff on CPUs. It's not that bad. And even if you want to use GPUs, then it's not necessarily the same kinds of GPUs that would be optimal for training that you would use. Don't know if you guys played with, cloud GPUs, but actually I don't even remember the references. But um, the big A100s are not necessarily the fastest ones for inference because they are very big, but they have lower clock speeds. So yeah, for inference, it's a different game. And yeah, that image that Vince posted, don't do that. That's gonna suck for ML stuff because yeah, mining rigs they use one PCI Express lane per card, and so very low bandwidth. It's good for mining because mining is a very dumb task, but for ML, it's not good. So don't do that, especially if you want to plan now. Please don't.
Oh, Steak Machine is asking if an FPGA might be an alternative.
FPGAs, yeah, FPGAs are interesting. Usually, you really have to optimize for the FPGA. I don't know if, I mean, usually these days people are most interested in LLMs, and I don't know if there's many interesting ones that are optimized for FPGAs these days. Though I know that you can quantize LLMs down to like even like 1 bit, and so that could make for some fun experiments on FPGAs. But yeah, I don't know, like off the shelf right now, like if you had a big chunky FPGA, like what would you pull from the internet to run yeah on that? I don't know. I'm not sure. So yeah, an FPGA is usually very expensive too, right? So yeah, don't know, but don't don't worry about it for now. I guess with the SQL service coming out and we're seeing lots of excitement already about it, lots of you know uh, future customers for it. I guess the main thing is for you to think about how are you gonna save your Postgres instances, how are you gonna optimize them, right? That's probably a better investment of your time for now. Think about SQL, yeah.
I think about those SQL profits that I'm gonna make and throw into GPUs. Does that sound right?
Yeah, no, really think just about database optimizations and yeah,
I mean,
Postgres.
there's something that is using GPUs on
I
Postgres. Forgot
on
the
Post
name of it.
okay on Postgres specifically, I haven't heard of that. That's
I'll find the
pretty.
link and I'll throw it in the chat if I find it.
'Cause usually it's IO that hurts you, right? So yeah, guess as usual, buy more FPGAs, right? As if you
It's
hadn't heard
called
that
PG
enough.
Strom.
PG Strum.
Yeah, posted the link.
I can't find it somehow. Yeah.
I
Oh.
sent you the link in the
Yeah,
chat.
yeah, yeah. I was trying to Google it. That didn't work. Hmm. Yeah. Still not sure though. Usually it's IO that kills you, but maybe. I mean, if you get to the point where compute somehow is a problem for you on Postgres, then yeah, you may try that. But yeah, I don't know. GPUs are expensive. Maybe you're better off buying SSDs.
For sure.
Distributed tables. I think distributing, as long as you don't cut through a subgraph, you're good. So yeah, if you wanna split your subgraph, I mean, yeah, maybe you. Actually, I don't know exactly what Citus distributed tables do, but the problem when you start splitting your data around is that you can get inconsistent results for queries. For example, you would do a subgraph query and you would get a mix of data from the latest block and some data from some random other older block in the same response. And good luck surviving an arbitration, right? After that. So yeah, it's pretty risky stuff. Split data. I mean, I haven't done hardcore stuff with my database, so maybe you guys have more experience there in terms of, I mean, I'm sure you guys have more experience than me in terms of optimizing things and splitting data around. I know, Payne, you're moving subgraphs into different database instances, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That may be a thing. Another thing we're looking into is it worth even like having a mirror, a complete mirror database of your subgraph database to dedicate to SQL queries. Depending on how bad the load is from the SQL service, maybe that could make sense. Though you double your compute and storage and everything. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling now. But yeah, we're aware of the risk already with the SQL service, but the demand is huge. So that's something we're gonna go through together, I guess. There's gonna be suffering, but the business is huge. Yes, huge. Yeah, proportional to compute. So just a refresher. I think I already shared that this at last week's, but so our plan is somewhat at first somewhat of a unclean implementation, let's call it, of the SQL service. We would serve only the subgraph tables, really. It would use the current everything, the current infrastructure, which is GraphQL optimized and latency optimized. But then later on, we want to build a new type of database service, so at higher level of abstraction there, where indexers could know in advance what the query, what the customers want to query, and they could bid in terms of their price. And the advantage of this is that you could, for example, do a PG analyze. No, a PG. Sorry, I mean you can. I'm forgetting my terms, but you can do the whole Postgres estimated cost of the query, and then you could base the price, your bid, on that. So I know that Postgres estimations are not super accurate, but they would be, I think, still a way nicer way of doing things than Agora models, right? Yes. That's yeah, it's explained. That there you go. That's what I was looking for in my brain. But yeah. And then indexers could use any kind of formula, rule, whatever to compute a price from that, or any other way. I mean, really, because thanks to the bidding system, indexers could use any method to compute a price and bid. And so using explain could be a nice way, for example. Does that answer your question, Derek, about charging for compute? Cool. Awesome. And turns out that AI service, the machine learning inference service, we want to use that new type of data service, such that also there, like indexers could just send bids. So yeah. So same here, no Agora models or whatever. It's like it's up to the indexer to use whatever method they would like to price their bids. Yep. Yeah, we just let capitalism run, and yeah, if an indexer is a Postgres genius and somehow it costs them 100x less to do something than the other guy, then their bids would be lower, and yeah, you guys will be responsible for running your business in the most efficient way possible and get the best prices. Everybody wins. That's a good question. I mean, I think the plan for us, I haven't been working directly on this. I just know at high level what we're doing on this, right? But at first, we want it to be based on the subgraphs themselves. So the idea is that so the indexers would still, open an allocation against the subgraph, etc., but they would declare somewhere or another that they are also open for direct SQL to the tables of the subgraph. And so we're going to stick as close as possible to the existing logic of GraphQL queries, but for SQL. But then for the longer term, I'm not quite sure, because ideally the proper SQL service of the future will be more open-ended. So yeah, these are open questions. But yeah, joining data across chains, yeah, that's a very interesting one for sure. And even joining in general is an interesting problem, because well, where do you join? Do you need to find an indexer that has all the data that you want to join together? So that would be a lucky combination of exactly what you need, or do we do something fancier somewhere else? where we would join tables from different indexers, which sounds pretty tricky in terms of performance and everything. So yeah, weird prompts, interesting prompts. But in general, if you guys are curious about, the ML inference service that is, not soon, right? Soonish, but not soon. So don't rush by GPUs. But in general, start experimenting with running things on your computer just for kicks, right? And get a feel for how that looks like. So I recommend playing with llama.cpp, whisper.cpp, and also stable diffusion. So what was that wrapper for stable diffusion? I can't remember the name suddenly. Does someone remember? Maybe I should put some links.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that we're going to use that in particular, but it's a very, very, serious implementation. So llama.cpp, I suppose you guessed what it does. Whisper.cpp, it's, well, as it says, part of OpenAI's Whisper model. So it's a speech recognition model that is scarily good. And then for the stable diffusion one, oh yeah, okay, there you go. It's automatic 1111. A very weird name, but it's very awesome nevertheless. So yeah, you can play with that. Just get a feel of what you can do with ML inference with even on CPU, or so llama.cpp, whisper.cpp, they'll run pretty well on CPU. Stable diffusion, pretty hopeless on CPU, so you'll need at least an NVIDIA card or a somewhat recent AMD card. I tried on Intel Arc if you were curious about that, and it's kind of sucked. So yeah, I don't recommend that, but AMD or NVIDIA, that should work. Yeah, just play around. My GPUs, but maybe by then we'll say, well, actually your GPU's too old. You need a new one, so don't rush. Kidding though, but yeah, don't rush, really. But yeah, if you guys need some help with running llama.cpp or whisper.cpp, some high level help, I can somewhat help. But yeah, just ping me, I guess. You'll never use ChatGPT anymore after that. I've heard that LivePeer may be thinking about training workloads. I don't remember where I heard that. Through the grapevine, I guess. And I think it makes more sense for them to do training than us, at least for now. Because doing ML inference is really like, it's kind of like a query. It's just that instead of doing I/O, you're doing compute, right? Kinda. I don't know if the analogy makes sense to you guys, but yeah, it's still querying in a way. I haven't heard about Titan nodes.
Changing the topic for a second, just to let everyone know that there is a new Rust Ethereum release. This transition from alpha to beta, which was going to require you to resync it, and it's supposedly going to dramatically improve historical access times, and also you can move old blocks to a different kind of medium of storage. For example, putting it in on spinning disks if you don't really need that to access it as much. But yeah, like it's supposedly going to be a huge upgrade, and again, it requires a resync. So yeah, they're trying to also get the sync time under 48 hours. They're very close to that, which is currently beating 𝗨𝗀𝗀𝗃 by at least a day or so, maybe even more. Now back to GPUs. If you want to chat more about LLMs and stuff, Alexis, feel free.
I was just answering the questions, but yeah, I don't have much more to add. Just don't rush and buy GPUs yet, unless you really want to hedge future prices. But yeah, I
Last
mean,
thing I want to do is like futures trade GPUs now.
yeah, we need perpetual futures
Yeah.
for each card.
That'd be hilarious. I bet some Chinese guys already did it somewhere on
Yeah,
like obscure Chinese exchange for sure.
but we
I
haven't
mean,
even started implementing anything, so that's why, like, please don't do that, because I don't want you guys screaming at me that you buy GPUs for nothing. Oh,
Vince.
come on. Nvidia is way too high. I wouldn't recommend buying that.
So Steak Machine says it's not even close to syncing under 48 hours. Yeah, well, that's their plan. I'm not sure exactly how they're gonna do that, but yeah. And last but not least, there's a POAP that you can mint by entering the secret phrase graph minus network. You have 15 more minutes to grab it. Otherwise, it's gonna be gone. Vince, the Grafana chart is from Ref syncing on the newest beta release from scratch. It's nice that it comes with like pre-packaged Grafana dashboards though, like it's super useful. I think 𝗨𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃 also has something like this, but yeah, it's always nice to see and to have. Cool. All right. So now that we've got to the round hour, is there anything else you guys want to discuss, or should we wrap it here? I think this session was quite interesting, especially with those AI/LLM topics and the blobs, of course. One last shout out to Pinax and their blobs SBS. If anyone wants to stink that alongside them, feel free. I'm sure Matthew would appreciate. And with that said, yeah, I'm gonna see you again next week at the same time. And yeah, thank you so much for joining today's Index Office Hours.